What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to show you how to make the ultimate pumpkin pie. We got pumpkin, butternut squash, and sweet potato in here. We got a beautiful Pate Sucree dough, so it's going to be nice and crisp on the bottom. We're going to do an Italian meringue on top, and this is going to be an absolute showstopper for your Thanksgiving table. Let me show you how it's done.
The sweet potato, you could use either sweet potato or garnet yam, whatever you got. I like to just take off the ends, get a nice piece of aluminum foil, and wrap it up nice and tight, and put it onto a foil lined tray. For the butternut squash, we're going to take off the top, we're going to take off the bottom just a little bit, we're going to sit it down flat, cut it in half, or in thirds. I'm going to take a spoon, put it here. I'm going to set that off to the side for now, and same thing over here. So same thing with the pumpkin, we're going to just put it on its side. We're going to cut off the top and the end, both sides. Just hold it firm, it is round, so be careful as you're doing this. Cut this in half. And we're going to scoop out all the seeds as well. Let me start with this side. And I like using a spoon, scraping down all the sides. That's good. Okay, so then we're going to just drizzle in a little bit of oil on each side of the pumpkin and the butternut and the little crevice, and we're going to go from there. So I'm just like rubbing it in over the other side, making sure that it's all the face of it and the inside is in it. Then I put it face down, same thing with this side. Just rub it down. Neutral oil, olive oil, whatever you want. This is doing a pumpkin pie, so I prefer neutral oil, so there's no flavor, but olive works as well too. So as you can see, we have a preheated 350-degree oven. These smaller butternut squash are going to cook faster than that. That's probably going to cook a little bit faster, but it's going to be about 45 minutes to an hour and 15, and you check them as you go. Okay, let's check these. So this, oh, he's tender. This still needs a little bit more time. Oh, he's good. Yeah, they should be good. Okay, so we gotta put him and him back in the oven. We'll take off the other guys. They should be nice and tender. We'll flip them over onto here. Be careful because they're really steamy. And just let them cool still upside down. We're going to pop these guys back into the oven for about 10 or 15 more minutes until they're tender. Okay, you just want to make sure that it's tender, goes in really soft, it squishes to the touch. That's perfect. Okay, so for our roasted butternut squash, we're going to take a spoon and just scoop out the flesh, leaving all the skin. And next, we're going to grab our pumpkins. And as you can see, the skin comes right off. There's a lot of moisture in pumpkins, so the skin almost steams right off of it, making it super easy to peel and absolutely delicious. But on the bottom, we got a little bit of caramelization, which is nice, and we're going to blend this up to make our pie filling. For the sweet potato, I like to take my thumb and kind of just peel a line and start peeling the skin. The eyes will kind of hold the skin in place, but just peel them until it's nice and clean. And once it's removed, you're going to have 3 different flavors. You're going to have the sweet potato, the pumpkin, and the butternut squash, which is going to lend some complexity to our dish. We have 2 gourds. One is actually a squash, a pumpkin and a squash, and a tuber, a beautiful sweet potato. So we're going to have many different elements in our pie, and it's going to be awesome. To make the pie crust, Brian, if you could take, we have 224 grams of all-purpose flour. We're going to add also 88 grams of sugar. We're also going to add 115 grams of butter, unsalted. We're going to add 1 whole egg, and we're going to blend this up. Okay, so
what you're looking for is a texture that's crumbly, right? But with a little bit of pressure,
It'll come together.
it'll come together. And this is going to be good. So what we're going to do is we're just going to tap this out. And if you're using this, there's always a blade. So finger in the bottom helps make sure the blade doesn't come out. And we're going to just pour it out onto your board, right? And I want you just to kind of press this together. Just make
one
it
big
into
mass?
one little mass, yeah? So in order to make the pie crust, just put it into a ball. I want it to be round so it's easier to roll out. It's going to be like a little hockey puck. Flatten it out, make it as even as it needs to be. But if it's too dry, because sometimes the eggs have a little less moisture, you can add a little water just as needed. But that's it. First layer, kind of cup your hands around it so there's no air touching the dough. You want the saran wrap, the cling film, only touching the dough. Now slice off the saran wrap, use the little, perfect. And make it nice and tight. Yep. Flip it over one more time. And then tuck in those ends.
All right, so everything's saran wrap. Now, we do want to flatten it out a little bit, though. I know you mentioned that.
Absolutely. You want to flatten it out because it makes it easier to roll. Once you let the pie dough rest, it gets cool, the butter gets a little bit chilled. It's going to be easier to work with. And all we have to do is we have to let that rest in the fridge for about an hour.
All right, my guy. So pop that in for me.
Is you want to have a nice clean countertop. So what we're going to do is the natural warmth from our hand and the pressure from the actual rolling pin are going to start warming up this dough.
So when rolling out the pie dough, just make sure to flour it nicely on each side, rotating 90 degrees while rolling from the center towards the outside. You're going to measure your pan to make sure that you have some overhang, and I like using a dough card to roll the dough over onto my rolling pin, place my pie dish underneath, and then I use my thumbs to make sure the weight of the dough doesn't roll off of the rolling pin. I'm going to take the pie dough and press it into the corners gently, making sure not to create any cracks, and just fill it into the gaps. Once it's in the corners and it's all nice, I'm going to take a blade, I'm going to trim it up just to make sure it's right to the edge of the pie dish. And then using my thumb on one finger and my pointer and thumb on my other finger, I'm going to just create little triangle kind of crimps all along the edge of the dough. And that's going to create a beautiful pie crust. We'll pop this in the fridge to cool down a little bit before we pour our custard. To make the custard, we're going to take our butternut, squash, sweet potato, and pumpkin. We're going to add our eggs, some sour cream, some freshly toasted spices, and make sure you season this nice and generously. You want to taste it all. We're going to whisk it all up, get it nice and combined, and then once we do that, we're going to go to the stove and get our maple syrup to sweeten this up.
We're going to add the maple syrup.
And what are we going to do with the maple syrup exactly? We said
Basically, it's going to be the sweetness, and we're going to just bring it up to a boil to remove some of the moisture, and we're going to infuse the vanilla bean in there, right? So we're going to have the vanilla bean in there, and we're going to add some cream for some richness and texture. We took the maple cream, we let it cool down a little bit, it's got vanilla in it, we have the pumpkin pie mixture. Pour this in slowly so I could emulsify this in. Yeah.
cool.
So what we're going to do is we're going to let this sit in the fridge until our pie dough is ready to go. Okay guys, so now we have the nice crimped pie crust, which is really a Pate Sucree dough. There's a little egg in here, so it's going to be nice and crisp once we're done baking it. We have our beautiful butternut, sweet potato, and pumpkin mixture, sweetened and spiced and ready to go. We're going to pour it into here, keep it nice and level, okay? Do is we're going to gently transfer this into a preheated 350 degree oven. Be careful not to hit the rack or swing it too much. You want the custard to stay nice and level. Put it in the center of the rack. We'll rotate it halfway in between just to make sure it gets a nice even cooking. Now, just to make sure our pumpkin pie is going to cook evenly, all ovens cook differently. You don't want a hot spot. We're just going to rotate it halfway through and let it cook all the way through. It's done. We're going to cancel the oven. Let's look into here, and you can see there's no jiggle, right? It's nice and tight. But before it cracks and everything, we want this just to slow down. We're just going to pop this open so it can slowly vent. We're just going to put a wooden spoon in there, turn off the oven. It's going to cool down by itself, and it's going to finish off in there. Once it comes to room temperature, we're going to be able to chill it, pipe on the meringue, and get the pumpkin pie ready to go. Okay, so to make an Italian meringue, it's really, really important that we have a clean mixing bowl. So So wash it out, make sure there's no fat whatsoever. Another little tip or technique that you can do that's not going to affect the flavor of your meringue is take a little paper towel and some white distilled vinegar. And you just want to add just enough to wipe out the entire bowl, and then we're going to dry it from the vinegar. And the acid is going to make sure that the fat is cut and clean to make sure that your meringue has a proper lip. Wipe this out with a dry one to make sure there's no residual at all. And we're going to take 160 grams of egg whites, and we're going to pour that in here. We're going to have the whisk attachment, and we're going to be making what's called an Italian meringue, if that would get in there. We're going to have an Italian meringue, which is going to be a cooked simple syrup. So we have the egg whites in here, and something you could do to help your egg whites whip up better is add a little quarter of a teaspoon of cream of tartar. So we're just going to pop that right in here. We're going to get that whipping. That's going to go. So in a pot, we're going to have 200 grams of sugar and 50 grams of water, and we're going to put that on the stove. And what we're going to do is we're going to start whipping these slowly. We're going to cook this up to 240 degrees Fahrenheit. Once that comes up to 240 degrees Fahrenheit, we're going to start whipping this in, emulsify it out, and then let this whip until it gets cool. So let's go to the stove. Okay, so we have our thermometer set up. We have our water and our sugar. We're going to bring it up to a boil. We're going to wait for it to get to right to 240 degrees Fahrenheit. Now that it's a little bit frothy, we're going to add some sugar about a tablespoon at a time as we wait for the cooked sugar to go. The cooked sugar, we want to pour this in, not touching the side of the bowl, but directly into the egg whites, nice and slowly. You want to try to stay away from the whisk so that it doesn't beat up and caramelize on the side. So we have our nice cooled pumpkin sweet potato butternut squash pie. We have our amazing stiff peak vanilla meringue. It's an Italian meringue with cooked sugar, so this is going to hold up really nice, and it's going to get a beautiful torch. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start with some spoons. We're going to go funky on this. We're just going to let it kind of fall as it is, and we'll mess around with it so it looks really cool and interesting. But we're just going to kind of plop it on in the center first, and then we'll kind of turn it around and make it look cool from there. It's really, really stiff. It's got this really awesome texture. It's got full of vanilla beans in it. It's great flavor that's gonna really complement the nice, savory, sweet pumpkin pie with butternut and with sweet potato. So I think that's gonna be good. And basically what I'm gonna start to do is just kind of push it down, flatten it out a little bit. Let's make sure that every slice, we're gonna have the nice crust visible. We're gonna have a nice bit of, I'm gonna put this down, here we go. It gets sticky, so work as clean as you can, guys. But we're gonna just give this a little rotate. We're gonna start getting some cool little spikes. We're just gonna agitate the top, which is gonna give a nice, really roasted marshmallow, kinda tangy once we blowtorch it. It's gonna look cool, have lots of different colors, textures, and we're just gonna make it look crazy. Alright guys, as you can see, look at that. That to me is a pie, right?
And a half.
And a half,
A
right?
pie and a half.
We have pumpkin, butternut, and sweet potato inside. We have vanilla, maple syrup. We have a vanilla Italian meringue torched on top. This to me is the absolute best pie. And the dough that holds it all together, that little Pate Sucree, that one little egg is the trick. We hope you try this. Let's taste this out.
I'm excited for this.
I'm going straight.
You go first, yeah. I don't want to
Right
mess
here.
this up.
Oh, look Libby's ain't got nothing on me.
Gas.
Wow.
Oh my
Dude.
goodness.
Take the time, make your own roasted vegetables. I have meringue all over my face probably.
I don't
No,
think
you know what,
they have to. You guys have to make this on your own because you need to understand.
Ooh, look at that. It sets up perfectly.
If you wanted to, you don't even have to chew. But this
This is the best pie I've ever had in my entire life. I hope you love it. This is absolutely incredible. We hope you taste this. We hope you try this. This will be a showstopper at your Thanksgiving table. We hope your family loves it. If you guys decide to recreate this, we would love to see your results. So please send it to us. Adrian, where can they send this to?
right in the description, right by the like button, just send it to our Instagram, Dudes and Nudes, and we'll feature your videos.
And your pies and your pictures. And
your
we hope
photos,
your
everything.
family is in them. We love you guys. We hope you enjoy this as much as we love this pie. And we'll see you next time.
Now that everything's been homogenized, what do we do next?
No, I had stuff in my mouth. A little bit more. Oh, damn. It's in the beard now.
Ew.
No, it's not.
It's a real thing. A real
Is
thing.
it in my beard?
It almost feels like moon sand.
Like kinetic sand?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
This pie, I mean, this is some structure on this pie. Look at that pie dough. It don't break. Like,
No,
most pies.
he's being for real. Look.
like it don't. Like it just doesn't. Like,
Hell yeah, dude.
dude, you got something right there.
Oh.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for taking your time to watch our videos. We hope you learned something. If you did, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to share this with all your friends and family.
And if you enjoyed our content, don't forget to hit the bell notification and set the notifications to all so you can be updated when we make a new video.